What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Couple Things,
where we talk about a couple things.
Today we are going on to Traveling with Kids Part 2. When we started this Traveling with Kids Part 1, we had no idea there was going to be so much to talk about until we started talking, and it was like, wow, there's actually a lot more to this than we thought.
Yeah, I enjoyed Part 1. It seems like you all did as well. Thank you for the comments and the feedback on that. We got DMs, we got feedback on the reviews, and we also got comments on YouTube. So thank you for all that. I first just want to talk about what this podcast is about in general and who it's for, because there's no shortage of podcasts out there. So I just kind of want to draw the line in the sand. And if you're this type of person that we're about to describe, I think this podcast will be for you. If you're not this type of person, you might not enjoy it as much. Shawn and I are parents to 3 young kids. That consumes most of our day, most of our lives, most of our thought processes. And that's what this podcast is kind of about, how we've navigated that, how we relationally deal with parenting, getting older. We've been married for 8 years. You know, what does it even mean to like have friends as a couple? Things like this. And we're not going to be like the punchiest, trendiest, pop culture-iest, polarizing, promiscuous, or divisive. So if that's what you're looking for, if you're looking for like a cortisol injection of something just to get you going, like a little adrenaline rush of, oh my gosh, this is just vivid and wild, this is not your podcast. But if you have kids and you like kind of the beauty of a mellow life at home with your person that you love most and maybe you had kids with, this podcast could be for you. What do you think about that?
Wow.
What do you think?
I like when you get on pedestals. Yeah. We talk about marriage, talk about relationships. We give opinions, but nothing earth-shattering.
Yeah. Pretty mellow opinions.
We have fun.
And we do these in these episodes where it's just Shawn and I. We also do interviews. And anyway, stick around if you like that vibe. But back to traveling with kids. So it's, just to reiterate, not as easy to travel with kids as it is to travel without kids.
Correct.
And we have tried all the products. We've tried all the different gimmicks and tricks that we've heard. We've also learned a lot from people who have given us advice. And so we want to kind of group all that together and share with you what has worked for us the best.
It does go without saying, because we said this in the intro, but we did do a part 1. We talked about a lot of different things. To give you a quick recap, in going forward for part 2, we have traveled all over the world with our children, starting at a very young age. This might be a controversial thing to say, and I'm sorry, even though you just prefaced by saying we don't say controversial things. If you are a person that believes children have no place on a plane or in public transport, you can leave.
You think children have a place on a plane and transportation?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We do get comments every once in a while like, how dare you take a kid on a plane? Like,
yeah.
It's no place for a kid.
Some people have strong opinions about that.
I 1000% disagree with you.
Yeah. Anyway.
So we'll be telling you how to travel on planes, trains, and automobiles with kids.
All right, so let's go through some questions that we got. These were sourced from Instagram. Thank you to all of you who submitted questions or thoughts on that platform. And if you don't follow us over there, go ahead and check us out. It's a bunch of ridiculousness. We make a lot of videos. Some of them are funny. And I like them. I like the videos that we make.
I do
personally.
too.
Anyway,
I black hole scroll my own Instagram. It's fun.
All right. First up, do you bring any comfort items like blankets and stuffed animals on a flight, or are you afraid they'll get lost or dirty?
All of the above. I'm definitely afraid, but we bring all of our comfort items no matter where we go. And yes, probably 1,000 different times we thought we've lost them and it's been bad, but they are staple items. And I don't care if we lose our luggage, but we have to have our comfort items, which are Drew and Jet and Bear each have like this really it's like a big blanket that they sleep with. And then their loveys, which is like the small blanket that they sleep with.
Yeah, the idea of them getting dirty, I have not even thought about that after having Drew. Once the second one came along, I was like, all right, dirtiness is not the priority here. You know?
I do wash them every week.
We're not the people that are really hand sanitizing everything or like scrubbing things down with wipes. We just kind of get on, do the thing. Actually, you used to. Yeah,
we do the best we can.
We've changed standards. Anyway, yeah. We do pack them separately from our check-on luggage. Second question. Would you ever let your older kids travel on a plane without you?
Never.
Like a 5-year-old? No. What age would they need to be for them to travel alone?
Travel alone as in what? Like, are they traveling with Nana?
No, travel alone.
No.
What age?
18.
Really?
Yeah.
How old were you when you traveled alone for the first time?
Probably 16.
Really?
I always had my coach.
Gotcha.
Never alone.
Okay.
I would say 18, and even then, I'm putting a tracker on you.
How old were you when you got on a plane without your parents for the first time?
12.
And it was you and your coach?
Me and my coach. Going to Brussels, Belgium.
I think I was like 21.
Yeah. That's a better age.
Our first date.
Yeah.
When I went to LA.
I do think that's a better age. But I will say I have traveled so much. Like a ridiculous amount in my life. And the more I've seen and the more I've learned and the more I've traveled, yeah, I would say at least 18 before I would let a kid fly by themselves.
Protective mama, I dig it. Shawn turned professional as a gymnast when she was age 12, which is the reason that she traveled so much. Had you only signed up for the loyalty programs, you would have a bajillion miles.
I know.
What the heck?
I know.
All right, number 3. How do you deal with other people complaining about your crying baby or toddler?
Tell them to get over it.
No, I don't think. I kind of have a stoic philosophy here. It's like you can't control what happens to you. You can only control how you react.
For sure.
To me, it's like you kind of drown those people's opinions out. You're like, no, what do I want to respect people.
Yeah.
But I cannot cater to their preferences, you know?
This is when Mama Bear kicks in, though, and I'm like, for people who have something to say about it, I just get really annoyed.
I would just, like a broad message to people who are traveling on a plane and there's a kid on that plane who's screaming. The parent also doesn't want the kid to scream.
Yeah.
So your feedback that you might give might be redundant.
Or your eye rolls or your...
Yeah. Anyway, what's the best way to make it through that situation? I think it's like, hey, can I be helpful? Can I get you a water? Do you need anything? You know, it's maybe flip the script on you're disturbing my personal peace and say, man, this parent's been hustling.
Also, like a couple of thoughts here. As a parent, the absolute worst part of parenting is seeing your little one unhappy and hearing them cry, because that's a helpless situation. You could have the best child in the entire world who has never cried, who might be introduced to a new situation. Ears might hurt. Something might happen on a plane that causes them to cry. Like Andrew said, trust me, that parent that's flying with them is probably more upset internally than the baby. The last thing they need is someone being like, oh, how could you do this? How could you let him cry? How could you be causing such a nuisance to myself? Like, no.
Yeah. You know, they say it takes a village to raise a kid. I think that even pertains to the group of people on the plane. It's like, be the village, don't be the animosity. Right?
Yes. And kindness to a parent who is struggling is the greatest gift you can ever give. I will never forget the Delta flight attendants who helped us on the way back from Paris.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't even like we were struggling. It's just we were on a very long flight home with 3 babies. And their generosity and their like kindness towards our kids was felt by our kids to make them feel welcomed and was felt by us.
This is an ad by BetterHelp. BetterHelp has improved therapy, making it affordable and convenient. And now it's even better.
Sign up for BetterHelp between December 3rd and 5th to get 1 free month of therapy.
Take a breather from the hectic holiday season to pause and take care of yourself.
Visit betterhelp.com/EastFam between December 3rd and December 5th for 1 free month of online therapy.
That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/EastFam. Valid for new U.S. customers only. Number 4, did you always buy your kids a plane ticket each, or do they ever sit with you?
They definitely sat with us. It was always dependent on how long the flight was. So if we were going probably longer than 3 or 4 hours, I'd say probably 3 hours early on. If we were going longer than 3 hours, we would buy them a seat. And that was just for comfort for all of us to be able to give them some space to like spread out or play or eat or like whatever it is. If it was under 3 hours, we would not buy them a ticket all the way up until the age cutoff.
We also do it for the other people. Like,
Yeah.
we wanted to just make sure that there was never a sticky situation where it's like, all right, we have a 2-year-old who's crawling over a stranger.
Yeah.
So we did it kind of out of respect for other people. It also depends on the airline that you're flying to.
Yep.
With Southwest, you can sometimes kind of cross your fingers and say, hey, hopefully we get the middle seat or whatever that's open. I feel like they're so often overbooked, so that doesn't always happen, but worth thinking about.
Another thing to think about when it comes to like whether you buy a seat or not is doing like the math as far as like the seat setup. So I would always look up on the on your ticket or on your booking, is it 2 and 2 seating or like 3 and 3? How many people do you have? So when it was just Drew, we pretty much always bought her a seat just so we could, on planes that had like the 3 seats next to each other, just so we could all sit together. Now that we're a family of 5, we'll buy 6 tickets total, if that makes sense.
Sometimes, yeah.
Wait, does that make sense?
Because you'll get one full row and then one row with an extra seat.
So just trying to like, again, be as courteous to people sitting next to us as possible and vice versa.
Yeah. I guess it also even depends on the type of plane. If it's like 2 and 2 or 3 and 2 or 2 and 1, whatever. Number 5, what's the worst thing someone has said to either of you when traveling? How did you handle it? I'm thinking the first thing that comes to mind, there's been several.
I can think of one.
Where
the guy body checked Jet
on
the train.
Gosh.
And you almost swung.
I have never gotten in a fight. I almost got in a fight in Paris because we had our 2-year-old who was on a train, and I think he was like half sitting, half standing, playing around. And this guy, Jet was like swinging his legs, playing, and barely grazed this guy. Like, you guys, barely. And even then, I immediately looked up and I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. And the way he whipped around and like swung Jet's feet off of him, I didn't even know how to react. And man, I saw Andrew's switch flip. Yeah.
And I was like, uh-oh.
I was thinking when we were in the subway station in Paris and we had all the suitcases, all the kids, and the lady
started cussing at us in French
and
then switched to English. And she was like, why would you even bring your kids? As our kids are standing there like listening to her. I was like, phew.
Oh, man. Anyway.
How do we handle it? We bite our tongue 99% of the time.
I think sometimes people say things and then they realize maybe they shouldn't have. There's a little grace given in that situation. So, like that lady doubled down.
Yeah.
And I try to not say something back because I don't want to say something I regret, but there's a glare that happens. There's a glare. And maybe like a sarcastic smile. I'm not proud of it. It's kind of passive aggressive, but it's better than me
swinging,
escalating verbally. Next.
What do you do when their ears pop and it's hurting them? I bring snacks for them to eat. If they're young enough, we do bottles. If they're old enough, we do gum. Just something for them to constantly be like swallowing to help kind of like, what's that called?
Swallow?
When
Like-
they're like getting their ears acclimated.
Now that you're saying that, I'm yawning.
Mm-hmm.
What do you call that?
Uh,
Stretching your eardrums?
no, it's called
Acclimating?
no.
I have no idea what you're talking about. I've never heard a word for
You
this.
keep going and I'll figure it out.
Okay. Any tips or tricks for getting them to sleep on a red eye?
They're not going to.
I would just, man, we've done a handful of red eyes with our kids. I think the older they get, the easier it is. I think the younger they are, there's a chance they sleep, but I would set expectations that they're not going to sleep the younger they are.
Our red eyes that we've taken, I think 2 total. 1 with Drew and Jet to
San Diego?
Israel.
Oh yeah.
And they did pretty well. They slept quite a while. I think
Yeah.
that was like a 10 or 11 hour flight. And I'd say they slept at least half of that, which was great. And then our red eye to Paris, I don't remember how long it was, 5 hours, 6 hours. I think Drew and Jet slept 3 or 4. And I think your expectation should just be they might sleep, they might not. If they do sleep, they're probably not going to sleep the whole flight. So set your expectation there.
Yeah.
And any tips or tricks, we've tried them all. I don't think one works better than the other. I don't think you need to invest in like blow up footrests or just bring a blanket and let them fall asleep in any way.
Like the screen time is tough because it mellows them out and it like gets their focus directed. But there is an age, I feel like it's like a 12-month period where they cannot take their eyes off the screen.
Yeah. So you can't even get them to like go to sleep.
Yeah, they'll just watch. Yeah. So I don't know. I feel like it's kind of an art where you're like, okay, let's turn off the screen and give it like 15 minutes to see if they'll go to bed. Next.
What has been the easiest and hardest age for traveling with kids? Under 1, easy. 1 to 2, horrible.
Tough, yeah.
2 over, totally fine. 1 to 2 is really hard because they're not old enough to really watch a movie or like have their attention be taken by something else. They're not quite old enough to understand and communicate. They're not old enough to understand how to sit still for a long period of time or sit with a seatbelt in a airplane seat. But then they also don't want to sit on your lap for a long extended period.
Yeah. They're pretty
time.
restless. Like maybe they just learn how to walk. They want to move around, like do the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, usually at that age, it's kind of like the first time flying too.
Yeah.
So they're like, what is happening? I would say maybe 1 to 2.5, maybe even 3. That age is tough. But now Drew, we could take and feel great about.
Oh yeah. Drew can fly anywhere for any extended period of time, 11-hour flight, whatever, and she's totally fine.
Because she also really communicates well, which is huge.
Mm-hmm.
She also walks by herself and can even push her own suitcase, so that lessens the load as a parent. She can like hold her own ticket and passport and the whole thing.
Safety wise, you can communicate things better to her, so like you're not worried about her sprinting across the street or just running. I mean, yeah.
But the early ages of walking, you're like, holy smokes, because you're carrying them most of the time, and they also whatever. Yeah, that is tough. Number 9. Anything special you do when traveling with a newborn, and how do you travel with breast milk? Man, you did a whole thing on this, didn't you?
I have done it all traveling with breast milk. I have pumped, I have nursed, I have shipped, I have done everything. I will say a wonderful source of information is milkify.com. Milkify?
Yep.
No, Milk Stork.
Milk Stork ships the milk, right?
Yes, but Milk Stork has a phenomenal FAQ on all of the laws and all of the regulations about traveling with breast milk. They will inform you on every possible thing you need to know in the most beautiful way so that you're aware. I think the only thing to know about traveling with breast milk, it is legal. you can travel with as much breast milk as you want. But I will say a lot of TSA agents are undereducated in the breast milk department. So it's really important for you to know the laws and to know the rules around the regulations with breast milk in order to protect your breast milk and yourself going through security. I've had people like tell me I had to dump, like literally throw in the trash, 30, 40, 60 ounces of breast milk. I've had people say they needed to like open it and test it. And like, there's so many different things. So go to milkstork.com and you can find out all the information.
Also, to TSA's credit, it's just kind of a rare situation that they don't see a lot, which is why I think they might be confused and they might not know all the nuances.
Because at the end of the day, it comes across as a liquid. And if you're over, your 4 ounces of liquid, of course, they're going to say you have to throw that away.
It's crazy, though, because the mom's perspective is like, they might have just been up for 2 hours at night pumping for that liquid. It's a very emotional thing where you're like, dang, I invested a lot in this. And sometimes the patience in the communication can be short.
A couple of things off the top of my head. If it's frozen breast milk that you're traveling with, it doesn't count as a liquid. If it is a liquid, I honestly can't remember the ounces, but you can bring up to like 30 ounces or something. Don't quote me on that. It's a lot. Frozen, it's a lot more. You can bring a pump that does not count as a carry-on. So if you carry any type of, quote, medical device, which a pump is, that can be a third carry-on bag. And you can request extra screening and opt out for them opening up your milk bottles and them actually sticking like a testing strip in it. I remember that too.
What do you do with 3 kids in car seats? Do you check all the car seats? Do you rent them there? We're taking our first flight with 3 kids, all same ages as yours. Wow, congratulations. What a ride we're on, huh? What a fun phase. We did at one point check some car seats. I think that was when we only had one. Now we use Baby Quip.
Baby Quip, and we rent them.
Yeah, especially for staying at an Airbnb. Baby Quip is awesome. They'll just drop it off at the doorstep. If you have like a rental car, a lot of times the rental car places will have rental car seats. It lessens the load. So for us, it's worth it.
I will say the only time we do travel with a car seat is if we have a young enough baby for a doona.
Yeah.
We take the doona. Otherwise, if it's Drew and Jet, a toddler, we will either rent through a rental car service, we'll rent through Baby Quip, or we will set up a car service that... Say we're going somewhere where we're not going to have to drive around. We would set up a car service and say, bring 3 car seats. We have 3 kids, and then that would be it.
But you got this. I'm excited to hear how it goes. Number 11, how do you balance the wanting to see everything feeling that comes with traveling to new places with the reality of traveling with little ones and not being able to go all day? This was actually something we confronted before we even had kids. Mm-hmm. I am very much...
Take every minute of the day and do something different.
Yeah, I'm a go. That's how I grew up. My dad, we would be packed going from one thing to another. Shawn was way slower. She's like, hey, we don't need to fill everything. This is like a vacation. Let's enjoy it.
Yeah.
And sit back and let's just see one thing and unpack it and actually really be there in it as opposed to rushing through it. So I really appreciate that perspective, and that has just carried on into having kids.
I think Andrew and I have really found a groove there with kids. If you are a parent to kids, especially younger ones, our days are pretty much before lunchtime and after lunchtime before dinner. So it's 2 periods of the day. And I think with a midday nap or a midday rest or decompressing or whatever, it pretty much gives us 2 activity periods a day. And so whenever we're traveling, we usually, to be respectful to our kids and not gas them out, if we're going to a place for, say, 7 days, that's 14 activity windows. We try not to fill all of them, but we try to be strategic and say, how do we want to fill these? Which ones are the most important? We'll space them out, and then we'll fill in with the less important ones in case we want to nix them because we're too tired or a kid's not feeling well. Or if it's just like, let's actually just stay in the hotel or apartment and watch a movie, you know.
I've adjusted my expectations of travel to be like, oh my gosh, we have to go see it all and we're only in Rome once and let's try to check off all the top 20 things to do here just to say we did and take a picture of the plaques or whatever. Like, I don't know, it's like Amazing Race type stuff. To traveling is really just an excuse to get outside your normal routine, get into a new environment and make memories as a result. So whether you're just hanging out in the new Airbnb or like the Airbnb that you're at, or you go out and see an aquarium that you only covered half of, it's a new memory. So,
okay, let's not run, but like try to heavy, you know.
Is it feasible to travel with kids and not be in first class?
We've actually found first class doesn't help at all. If anything, it puts you farther away from your child.
Yeah. Yeah, we've done first class. We've done not first class. We've done all the different classes. And the experience, I don't think really varies.
It didn't.
Yeah.
I will say we very heavily splurged once and did like the like lay down seats and stuff. And it was actually one of the hardest flights we've ever done.
Yeah, the kids don't want to sleep on the chair. They want to sleep on you. Anyway, and you can get that whatever seat you have.
Don't worry about first class. Just do regular.
How do you handle time changes and jet lag with littles? Wake up at 3 a.m. and watch a movie together. Yeah. That's what we did.
Just roll with it.
Yeah. Coming back from Greece and Paris, the kids woke up super early. And you're just like, all right. But we have not given the kids any sleeping stuff. We've stayed away from that intentionally. And, you know, it takes a couple days for them to adjust, but it's fine.
I would say overall, going from west to east, our kids have really never had an issue. Adjusted very quickly. Slept beautifully the entire trip. Going east to west, they really had a hard time. But that was always coming home too, so I don't know if it just had to do with like decompressing from the trip as well.
It's all part of the experience, baby. Next, how do you manage to keep your kids near you 100% of the time? My husband and I have a major fear of our kid darting off so quick, and strangers are so scary, especially in today's world. We almost put the kids on a leash, like the little backpack leash.
We did trackers.
Yeah, location
air
trackers.
tags and stuff. It's more so just like having that conversation with your spouse and being like, you know what? I know this is going to be more mentally exhausting for all of us, but at the beginning of every day, we would just be like, okay, number one priority is our kids and their safety. So
it really is like game mode, where maybe before when we traveled, it was, hey, let's sit down in a cafe, pull out our phone, take pictures, and like not be observant. When you got kids, you're like on alert, and it's like a very sensory experience because you're like really trying to keep them close, trying to make sure that they have their snacks, yada, yada, yada. So I think it just takes a certain attentiveness that may or may not come naturally.
I'm not going to lie. I've been feeling really healthy lately, and I'm so proud of it.
Babe. I'm pumped for you.
Thank you. I don't know if it's because I'm out of the early postpartum stages, finally in a steady workout routine, or focusing on my nutrition, but I have been feeling proud of myself, and it feels really, really good.
You really have been crushing it, babe. We really have been trying to make our health a big priority as we close out this year, and a big part of that is staying on top of our daily vitamins. Thanks to AG1, we've been able to stay consistent with our vitamins every day.
I've been drinking AG1 either in water or mixed into a smoothie, basically every day for years now. And I can definitely tell a difference in my energy, my immune system, and just overall well-being.
I agree. And we're big fans of their travel packs for the holidays too. We pack them in our carry-on and it helps us stay consistent during the holiday chaos.
So this new year, try AG1 for yourself. It's the perfect time to start a new healthy habit. And if you go to drinkag1.com/couplethings, you'll save $20 on your subscription or $49 off when you sign up for a double subscription, just like we have.
Plus, you'll get a free welcome kit, a bottle of D3K2, and 5 free travel packs. So make sure to check out drinkag1.com/couplethings to get this offer and start your new year on a healthier note. Next.
Have we ever dealt with motion sickness for either us or the kids, and what do we do? We have not.
Yeah.
So this is a hurdle we have not had to face yet, but I'm sure we will, and I will let you know. Next up, have you ever rented car seats through car rental? We're renting and a little nervous about safety and quality. 11-month-old, 2-year-old, and 4-year-old.
Ah, what a beautiful set of ages.
Beautiful. We have, and we've never had an issue. They're probably not going to be the fanciest, newest models, but we've actually never had an issue with them feeling unsafe or, the rental companies have a liability to make sure they're up to code and up to standards for, the safety of your kids.
Yeah, it might not be the brand that you would have chosen, but I think it's safe for the kids. Definitely safer than not having them at all. 17, tips for being more roll with it when traveling. We also have 3 young kids. Mine and my husband's knee-jerk reaction when things go south is to pack up and go home. I get that. I get that. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that early on, that was very much our like, why are we even doing this at all?
Someone said it really well where it's like, it's absolutely chaotic at home, so why not be chaotic in Paris or Chattanooga or Orlando? Like, just because you're going on vacation doesn't mean it's going to be easier for your kids. It's going to be harder. And I think understanding that, but realizing, like Drew and Jet every day will mention something about Paris. And Drew once a week will mention something about what she calls the trapezoid, is when we went to Memphis and stayed at, what was that? The
pyramid?
Yeah.
Trapezoid, she calls it.
Like this really cool hotel. I mean,
Bass Pro Shop. That's fun.
They remember it. No matter how hard or chaotic or meltdown city it is, it's still amazing for them.
So all that to say, stick with it.
Yeah.
I think there are a couple things that we've done. One, and I've seen reels about this where it's like my husband and I before going on a long car trip, and it's like we're a team and the kids are the enemy.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's kind of an extreme way to put it, but like there is an aspect that helps where it's like, hey, if you and I can have a sense of humor about the 3-year-old crying because we gave them all the snacks in the world and they didn't want any of them and they're still saying they're hungry. I think like a little levity between you as a couple helps. And then I also just think that roll with it. Like, yeah, how do you be more roll with it? I think adjusting expectations and having almost cues with each other, things that you say that help reframe the situation or like the flagrancy of the moment where it's like, hey, it's all part of the experience, or like, all right, everybody, who's having a good time? It's like, don't contribute to the angst of it. Try to snap out of it in whatever way you can. There's a graceful way to do that. There's not, but worth thinking about.
I think it was the first night we were in London this past summer. It was me, my mom, our nanny, Andrew, and all the kids in a taxi, and this poor taxi driver. Every single one of our children was hysterically meltdown crying. And we all just looked at each other and started laughing. It was like, oh, okay, here we go.
But it was a taxi cab driver that actually snapped us out of it. And he was like,
I've got kids myself.
Yeah. And so anyway, if you're able to create the white space, as we call it, I think that's what the military term is, where you're like, you remove yourself from the sensory overload and you're able to kind of have perspective, create that white space to navigate the situation a little differently. It helps a lot. Next, do you have a seating order you prefer on a plane? Example, mom being in the middle, kid by the window, etc. The kids like being by the windows.
Yeah. I would say it's not necessarily a seating order right now, but our 5-year-old is the easiest. And then it just kind of gets a little bit more hands-on as you go down. So I'd say whoever's having the hardest time is usually with a solo parent. Or like
one-on-one time.
Yeah. If Bear is having the hardest time that day, then it'll be Andrew and Bear sitting by themselves, and I'll take the other two.
That's well said. Yeah. And a lot of times the other two will be coloring or watching the iPad. And so the parent is kind of just monitoring, picking up crayons, whatever.
But we always try to remove the hardest situation and solo them out.
Yeah. Do you believe it's helpful to start flying with your kids when they're young to get them used to it?
1000%.
You do? I was going to say no. It's
I
like,
do.
If Drew was flying for the first time now, I think she would be fine.
I don't.
Okay. Interesting.
Only because I think it's so new and it's so foreign, and then it becomes like a bigger deal. I think Drew's so good at flying now because she's done it so much.
Mm.
Going through TSA, going through like the jet bridge, understanding when to go potty and how to go potty, and like
that you have to stand in the line before you get in the plane.
Mhm.
Yeah, I guess so. But maybe I don't know. Like I feel like
I still think it's great.
at like age 2, if that's their first time, I think it's fine.
At
But yeah,
age 8, it's fine. But I do think it's been easy. Like our kids travel so well because they've traveled so much.
I would say repetition does breed familiarity.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, next. Is there an awkward amount of time or laps you can do around the plane with a toddler? 10 laps, 15 minutes, or who cares as long as they aren't fussy?
Who cares as long as they aren't fussy?
Legitimately, on this Delta flight that Shawn mentioned back from Europe, we stood in the back of the plane with the flight attendant.
For half the flight, at least.
Yeah, I would say for hours.
Yeah.
And then we were just going up and down lanes. Jet was vibing. He was giving everybody high fives. The whole plane loved it. Well, sorry. Some people did not love it because they wanted peace and quiet. But like, it was kind of a fun. It was like, all right, we're all in this together. The whole plane like rallied around it. So I would just say whatever it takes. Next.
We don't have children yet, but would really like to know how traveling with your kids has changed your vacation dynamics. One of my passions in life is to travel the world and visit all 7 continents. I want to do this with our children when the time comes.
I like that goal.
I think how it's changed our vacation dynamics, I think we want to travel more now after traveling with our kids and seeing how much it's impacted them.
But we didn't always feel that way. We wanted to travel much less after the first time traveling because it's like, back to the knee-jerk reaction of packing up and go home. You definitely go through that phase. I think viewing that as a phase that sets you up for the next phase of like appreciating travel even more is really what you're shooting for. You know, just like stay in the game long enough to get to that point. Yeah, I think I've enjoyed travel more.
Same.
Like, it's hard to explain, but with a kid, like when you see the Eiffel Tower, you're like, wow, that's really cool. I've waited my whole life to see that. But then when you hear your kid say Eiffel Tower as they're looking at it for the first time,
it just
cool. Hits different. Hits different.
Okay, 2 more questions. Ready? Did we have the bassinet seat in the plane? If not, would we have wanted the car seat if we had the option?
We had the bassinet seat.
It was terrible.
Not worth it. If you, I would say if you have over like a 4-month-old, it's not going to be big enough.
No.
This was not big enough for Bear, and he was 7
I don't even know
old.
if like an infant would like it. I don't know. It wasn't great for us. I also have tried the car seat option, and I did not like it. It was such a pain trying to board a plane with a baby and a car seat and get it situated that it was not worth it for me.
All right, formula travel tips. How do you take it in the plane, or do you just take ready to feed formula? Shawn will always pack warm water. Whether it's warm when the kid eats it or not is up to when the kid gets hungry. But we'll always have water and then mix on the plane.
Which also is fine to take through TSA if it's in a bottle and it's for formula. You just have to tell them that.
And also, the planes make coffee, so a lot of times they'll have warm water. It might be hot, so you might need to get like colder water to mix in with it.
A hack is most planes have scalding hot water for tea. Just ask for them to fill a cup halfway with scalding hot water and then get a bottle or a cup of ice water and mix it.
They say not to pour the scalding hot water in the bottle because BPAs, whatever. So try to mix it before. Yeah. Try to get the temperature down before you put it in the bottle. All right, 3 more. Does traveling with kids get harder when you add in more kids, or is it just about the same with 1 versus 2 versus 3? I would say psychologically it's about the same.
Mm-hmm. Because when you're with your first, everything's harder. When you get it, just
Yeah, and I think if you go by the normal routine of unless you have like twins or something, usually if you have 3, the oldest will be somewhat more self-sufficient. So maybe 0 to 1 does feel like a step up. 1 to 2 might feel like maybe a slight more step up of effort, but then 2 to 3, I felt like it was the same.
How do you cope with the anxiety leading up to the day of travel?
Do you feel that?
I was going to say, you mean excitement?
Well, no, hold on. You get anxiety packing and the logistics of it all. Yeah.
I get nervous. I get nervous packing because I don't want to miss anything and I want it to be as like set up for success as possible. I just start early. Start very early as far as like start packing weeks in advance. Start getting all your logistics together. Talk about it with your kids so they know it's not a surprise. Like all that.
Mm.
Last one.
No need for anxiety though. There's no place for that. I
No.
don't think it's gonna be okay. I think just like take a breath, realize that there's gonna be some unexpecteds, roll with the punches, and enjoy it as much. Stop and smell the roses.
Yes.
Last question. How do y'all juggle all the waiting? Always waiting to get on a plane or even to get your luggage from baggage claim. The waiting never ever ends with kids, it feels like.
Here's our strategy. And I don't even know if we know it's a strategy, but we always do it. One person stays with the stuff, drops it somewhere. The other person goes on an adventure. We go running. We go in and out of stores. We come back and we switch with the other parent.
We try not to go in stores, actually, because the kids will swipe stuff off the shelf for sure. Try not to do that. But if you see us at an airport, apologies in advance.
We're running.
Our etiquette is probably not like great, but we're trying to get the kids. We'll run up and down the baggage claim aisle. A lot of times there's a lot of space there. And yeah, one person is usually entertaining the kids. One person is hauling the luggage. That's it. That was 26 Traveling with Kids questions. Great job.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks for listening, and tune in every other Thursday for a couple things interview episodes.
Yes.
We have one coming up with Jeremy Bloom. We did one with Steven Nedorozic of Dancing with the Stars and Olympic fame. And we have many more fun interviews coming up. If you've been listening to the show for a while, please leave us a review and rating, if you will. It helps other people find our show, and maybe they're like you, and maybe some of the tips we share might help them as well. So anyway, that's all we got. I'm Andrew.
I'm Shawn.
See you next time.